So today we've come out to talk about a new lure, and that new lure is the loaded jointed Pro Shad. Okay, now you may well have heard of the loaded Pro Shad, and this is a popular lure which we've been using for quite some time now, and it's an iconic lure which lots of us use. However, there's a big difference between the two. It's in the name, it's jointed. Okay, and it has a lot of different properties from the paddle tail lure, and that's especially down to these joints which form all the way along it. So this lure can be worked just like if you were sinking, drawing or wobbling a smelt. With little flicks of the rod tip, that lure literally comes alive. On a straight retrieve, it's got a slow snake to it, but where the killer part of this lure lies is when you actually cast out, feel it down, quick turn, stop, quick turn, stop, and it literally just brings that lure to life. It comes up and it kicks, and then when you put the paws into it, it flutters down like that, so it literally looks like a dying fish. You've got to get this lure, test it in the margins, try it out in the water where you've got a little bit of clarity, and just try and work it, twitch it, stop it, work it, twitch it, and what you'll realise is that you can just mimic an injured dying fish, and that is the absolute beauty of these lures. So in the range of the new jointed Pro Shad, we've got three sizes. Okay, we've got 14 centimetre, got 18 centimetre, we've got 23 centimetre, the big boy. Okay, so when we go back down and we look at the 14 centimetre, believe it or not, that will catch a lot of perch. Okay, it might look like quite a big lure, but it's really not. Once you start getting perch 1.5 pounds, 2 pound in weight, they'll easily take that. It's only got that single treble there as well, and you'd be surprised how that will pick out the actual better perch as well from a shoal. It's got everything a perch lure wants as well, so it's got lots of flex in it. It collapses well when they come up behind, and obviously it's got that dying fry look, which especially during the autumn, this sort of time, you know, they really are feeding hard on the fry. So that's a fantastic perch lure. And then when you move up through, you're going to go through and you're going to be looking more towards the pike as we start getting towards the bigger lures. You might notice it might look like an unusual hooking system on there. Well, that's there for a reason, because this lure, I mean, this particular one here weighs 107 grams, so it's a big lure, it's a big pike lure. And what can happen is if these were fixed hooks and you get a take, that's 107 grams with the pike shaking its head, which they can actually use that weight to take the hook out of themselves. So what happens is when you do get a take, you can see it pulls out. And then what happens is your trace is clipped on there, and there's no lure there, you're just connected straight away to the pike, and that means you will lose a lot less fish. And it's just simply a case of plugging it back in afterwards, after you've had the fish, pushing it back in, and then you are literally good to go for another one. But these work, all of them work straight out the packet, and they're all good to go from the packet. Okay, so the hooks are like that. Now what I do is I just nick them into the plastic or the rubber so that they are set like that. The main reason I do that on a lot of lures, not just these lures, is because during the cast you can find that they can kick over and they can catch and snag, whereas when you've like nicked them into the rubber, it just means that they're pretty much ready to be grabbed by the pike, and then as I showed you, they kick out. So some really good hooking properties and lots of different sizes in the range to suit the different predators that you might be targeting. So a quick flick out there with the lure. I can't let it go right down because there's lots of weed, but the retriever I was talking about earlier, couple of turns, stop. Couple of turns, stop. Couple of turns, stop. Just got to watch that there. Bit of weed there, okay? So flick it out there. Just couple of turns and then stop it. Couple of turns and stop. And what happens there is that fish is coming up and then kinking back down again. Turn it and it's kinking and then coming back down again. And today's been a tough old day actually. We've seen a couple of other anglers on the bank and they've really struggled as well, but we've managed to get 3 fish on the bank. And it's definitely been a day when it has been a horrible cold northeasterly wind, really chilled off the water. And with this lure I can actually slow things down. You know, if I was on a standard shad now, I'd be really struggling to work it as slow as I'm working this one. This is different. This is a totally different style of lure. And don't forget, you know, 80–90% of the anglers you're going to see on the bank fishing for pike, they're going to be using shads with a paddle tail on the back. Most of them are. Whereas this one here, this is mimicking a dying fish. You know, the other shads, they're all mimicking, a lot of them are mimicking a moving fish or a fish going down to the bottom, not necessarily dying. So what you're doing there is you're appealing to a pike which may not be willing to chase a shad, but is willing to actually chase what it thinks is a dying fish, because obviously it thinks it's much more likely to be able to get that fish. And then I did the 2 reels and stop. Another good one is actually working it like you would a jerkbait. So that was the other percentage of people I was talking about there. So that was the smaller percentage of people, and in this area anyway. It may change around the country, and it's just the rod tip, keeping it on a tight line, flicking it with the rod tip, tight line. What you're doing is you're kicking it and it's stopping, kicking it and it's stopping. And that's, you know, you could do that halfway back and then 2 turns, stop, 2 turns, stop. Put a kick in it, 2 turns, stop. What I find with nearly all of my lure fishing is don't be too repetitive with your retrieve. If you just do 2 turns, stop, 2 turns, stop, 2 turns, stop all the way, you might get a pike's attention and you might catch a pike. But what he's doing is you also get so many follows in pike fishing you don't see, in most fishing you don't see. And when they, well, I've personally found that when they see the same repetition going back, they just follow, and you say, oh, I had so many follows, I had so many fish come up to the lure. But it's not about trying to get as many follows as you can a day, it's about trying to get as many pike on the bank as you can a day. So that means don't do the same repetition all the way back. Do 2 turns, stop, and then twitch, twitch, 2 turns, stop, twitch, 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 and change it up. And when you're changing up, the pike's following it and he thinks, oh, whoa, hang on, that's changing, and he doesn't know what it's going to do next. So the only way of stopping that lure and seeing what it is, or seeing if it is an injured fish, is to bite it. And that's what gets you more fish on the bank. So here we go, proof is in the pudding. Another fish on the Pro Shad. Not a monster. Whoa. There we go. Whoa. There we go. You can see the harness has come out. And now it's just hooked fair and square in the mouth. Whoa. Get it in the net. So these lures are very versatile. Now that looks a little bit different from it did a minute ago because I've changed the nose. The nose had a standard corkscrew with no weight in it whatsoever. So for the shallow rivers and drains around here, it was absolutely perfect to give it that flutter, and it was ideal for that sort of depth. And they already come fitted with the harness and the belly weight. But however, we've got various different weights of corkscrew nose weights there. And what you can do is simply switch them over on the bank. I just did it in less than a minute really. And you could do that for lots of reasons. You might be fishing a little shallow canal, and then in the afternoon you might be going out to fish a really big deep river. Well, that lure can fish exactly the same styles and retrieves, but you just change the nose weight to get you down to where the fish are. So now I've put that 10 gram weight on there, I could quite comfortably fish that in 15, maybe even 20 foot of water. Whereas when I take it off, it works perfectly in 6 foot of water. So a very versatile lure, which can come fished straight out of the packet, but can also be adapted on the bank to fish in different situations as well. So we're at the end of the day now, and hopefully I think I've covered everything about the new loaded Pro Shad. It's a straight out the packet lure which just fishes on a straight retrieve, a jerk bait retrieve, stop and pause retrieve. You can adjust the nose weight so you can fish it in depth. You can use it as it is, and you can fish it in shallower water. You can fish it over the top of weed beds. The list goes on. It really is a really versatile lure, and one which I would definitely recommend having in your lure box, just to give you that little bit of an edge.